when you were launching the collection, was the word feminist in your mind?
Yeah.
Because it has become
Yeah.
really almost the essence of your brand.
Yeah, it has always been. You know, I was brought up by a single mother who was divorced in Nepal, and at that time in Nepal, like being divorced was unheard of. It was not accepted. So just imagine the trouble and the struggle that she went through. I grew up with a mother who always said to us, one thing was like, we're three of us, 3 children she has. She said, I want to make sure that my children are not burdened to this planet, and I want to make sure that they are. And she always said, try to do the right thing and don't be afraid to speak up against injustice. And she was, before I even understood what feminism or feminist was, she was the first person I saw, right? And from day one, I have been talking about femininity with the bites, like the celebration of, I always felt a woman in her full feminine glory, and I witnessed it, is so unnerving to patriarchy. I've seen that happen, and it really unnerves. And so I've always looked at that as like the biggest strength, one of the biggest strengths for women, just to embrace it, and before it was even popular, I remember like early on when I talked about whether it's a singing man's sex symbol or a celebration of women in position of power, a lot of people in fashion and outside we used to be, oh, you're a fashion designer. Make clothes,
Right.
and
I remember. Can I quote you back to you? You said a while ago when I interviewed you that, quote, fashion is not the land of the stupids. Although, I don't know, sometimes it could be the bubble of the uninformed.
or if you look at the politics right now, we can apply to
Let's
that too.
Let's just go there. Yeah.
We can apply that to what's happening right now as well. So, I think fashion is, I would say, it's a highlight of the world. Like what happens, what you see, and we know oftentimes the fashion industry really gets bad rep for, because what the world sees is the 10% of glamour and the fabulousness. But the real work happens in 90% of the time, behind the scenes. It's an industry driven by minorities, LGBTQ members, people of color, women, immigrants, a lot of them undocumented, and it's an industry driven by that. And so I find the complexities involving that, I find it really fascinating. Yes, it is true what you sometimes read about fashion and the fabulousness and, a lot of the stupids, yes.
How do you wrestle with that, with all of what that entails, though? Because you're absolutely right about fashion is in fact an industry populated by immigrants and people of color and women, and often they're at they get the short end of the stick.
Of course.
And fashion presents the image of glamour.
Lately inclusive and diverse.
And diverse, yeah. Right. But when you step out on that limb and start speaking up, what do you then become sort of the agitator in the industry? How do your peers respond?
Now it's a different story, as we all know. Like, when I started speaking up, it wasn't because let me put it this way. So my company is, self-financed, independently owned. So I own the company. I have another partner there. So it allows us the freedom to do the right thing. Okay. Oftentimes, when you have investors, partners, you're answerable to all of them. So how I react is my job as I came to America to become a designer because I had this passion for it, and after paying my dues and everything, I've reached wherever I have. Along the way, I've gained some kind of notoriety and audience, some kind of following. What I always felt was, all that attention, all that stuff that's coming my way, it just can't be for myself. I have to use this platform for something that's better, other than myself, and other than my selfies, though I do love those, just so that you know. You know that, so
You can follow him on Instagram.
yeah, yeah, make sure it's. No, I'm just kidding. And I wanted to. I don't know. I just completely lost the chain of thought. Sorry. This is what happens. Every time we are sitting down and having this conversation. I'm trying to have a serious conversation here, but every time we sit down, we're just like laughing about it. Sorry
Well,
about that.